Hello, welcome to part 5. So, a question that came to my mind since part 4 of how easy would it have been to rewrite history, church history in the 4th century. And I got to thinking, well, based on where I left off in part 4, it's just a matter of the tax collectors under the authority of the emperor just going to the library. Lower class didn't have any scrolls. There was no middle class, and all they had was the upper class with scrolls. Now they weren't exactly something you can hide like a book. They took up quite a bit of volume. It's just all one roll. So, so this was a period. During the period when this modification under Eusebius anyway been taking place. And again, I don't believe it stopped with Eusebius, but I do believe by the end of the 4th century, the rewriting church history had finally ceased. And anyway, how easy would it have been? Let's go look at how many. The question that came to my mind: how many libraries were there that the tax collectors would have had to go throughout the Roman Empire? Now, keep in mind, it was extremely uncommon for there to be a library. Okay, the Jews they had their scrolls, but I don't think they had like a library per se. I think the scrolls were stored up against the temple, from what I gathered a while back. So I looked up 311, the year 311. How many were there? 330. And there were private libraries, just like I had said in part 4. Only the wealthy had these libraries. The number of public libraries increased with each subsequent century. In the 3rd century, there were 28 of them. Okay, so then I looked up. Well, what about the year 311? That have been kind of in the middle. Look at the timeline here. They have been sort of in the middle of that period between the book burnings and Peter's fake cemetery being built. So I just went with 311. So just to see what it came up with. It's same number. Okay. So it goes to show you how easy it would have been for the tax collector to assess the writing of church fathers, if you will. They only had 28 libraries to go to. And again, Eusebius was the spiritual advisor to Constantine. He would have been the one that trying to benefit Constantine in the midst of trying to stop the murder of Christians. So by giving Constantine more power, at the same time trying to get Christianity accepted, and by rewriting history to make that all work, trying to change the center of theocracy from Jerusalem above, this is Galatians chapter 4, verse 26, to Rome. It gives Constantine more power, at the same time help prevent the murder of Christians. So it wasn't just the Edict of Milan that took place. That he was trying to do more than just that. Just some piece of paper tolerating Christians. That probably wasn't going to be enough in Eusebius' mind. Okay, so anyway, there are a total of 28 libraries, and they're probably not that big compared to what we have today. Got huge, massive volumes of books. Okay. And the scroll took up a lot of space, compared to a book. A book, you got each page back to back to back. A scroll, you're rolling it and it gets, bigger and bigger, So depending on the length of the scroll, obviously. But anyway, the point here is that just asking the basic questions, just one thing leads to another, and it's just super easy for them to rewrite history in the 4th century. Again, we had the church and state involved, the book burnings, and then, Edict of Milan, that was around that time. There was only 28 libraries during that time. So anyway, and so when you mention this to the average person, it's like, what? That's a crazy conspiracy. I understand where they're coming from. And I'm not a conspiracy theorist. I'm just a person that applies logic. I'm a very logical thinker. But I'm just one that, when I look at the scriptures, I use what's called the check valve principle, where I do not allow myself to interrupt the scripture with presuppositions, which is so common today. And people do not realize the power of presuppositions. I mean, it is way underestimated. Let's just look up here. Let's see here, actually, definition. Here we go. Eisegesis. So, eisegesis is the process of interpreting text in such a way as to induce one's own presuppositions. Christianity is flooded with presuppositions. Absolutely flooded with presuppositions. Doesn't matter whether you're Roman Catholic, whether you're Orthodox, Greek Orthodox or Oriental Orthodox, whether you're Protestant, we're all battling against presupposition, and the large majority have no clue the power of presuppositions and how it would so easily cause us to miss the author's intent of the scriptures. Even the brightest of the brightest, I see it time and time again where they're not using good solid hermeneutics, and their presuppositions cause them to go off on a tangent from the author's intent of the scriptures, And I'm a guy who's never been to seminary, and I see these problems, And I learn a lot from those who've been to seminary. I learn a lot. If it wasn't for them, it would be where I'm at today. So just by listening to their sources and reading their books and stuff, to me it's a sort of a more efficient way of doing seminary, where I'm not paying thousands of dollars of overhead, and I'm just going direct to the source and applying good hermeneutics along the way, and purge out presuppositions. And not saying that I'm the utmost expert at it, but it really helped go a long way. So anyway, it just goes to show how easy it was to modify history in the 4th century. And I guess the next question is, how many total writings were there, church fathers? So let's just look that up. Oops. Let's just see how many total writings there are. And to the best of my knowledge, there's not one single writing under the category of church father that said anything about the gathering of the house of Israel. That right there alone should raise a red flag to you. Maybe these aren't that reliable sources, because Paul talked about it and talked about the things that have to happen before the gathering and the judgment coming takes place. That's something I'm going to have to research, just how many total writings. But doesn't mean that every single one of them are modified, okay, obviously. But if you watch my videos on Eusebius, I point out that man was definitely trying to rewrite history. He's the one that fabricated first 800 years of the church. So I'm not concerned about the writings after the 4th century. I'm concerned about the time from the time of the apostles to the time of Eusebius and Constantine in the 4th century. So I have been able to come up with at least 13 different writings. Let's see here. I can just zoom out. Yeah, so each of these is a writing that's in red, a church father that has writing in it from a first person perspective, writing about things that they weren't even there. And that alone should raise a flag. If you're going to write about something that happened before your time, you have to cite a source where you're getting it from. You can't be writing about it as if you were there. That'd be like me writing about the time I hung out with Peter, went fishing, and Peter, I'm talking about Apostle Peter, and this was way before my time. I can't write from a first person perspective as if I was there if I wasn't there. And that's what that is something that's so obvious, glaringly obvious, and you have all these so-called scholars going around saying, "Oh yeah, these are reliable sources." And what's funny is these same people who think these are reliable, what you see in red, think that the Gospel of Thomas and Gospel of Peter and Gospel of Barnabas, oh, they're not reliable, which I agree with, but somehow these are suddenly reliable. Like, wait a minute, what standard are you using? I asked one senior Roman Catholic apologist, what standard are you using? He even wrote a book on church fathers, how you can trust them. And I never got an answer back. What standard are you using to determine that these books under category of church fathers are reliable? And I'm pretty certain that he's one of those that also believes that Gospel of Thomas and Peter and Barnabas are not reliable sources. But when I read these writings, there are so many problems with them. And it's just stunning to me how how Christian believers are so gullible. It's like, what the heck? It's like, it's no wonder why the atheists and Muslims, they look at Christians and who repeatedly over and over make Jesus, Paul, John, Peter, and James look like false prophets over and over and over again, and they see how gullible we are at the same time. It's like whatever, I can see where they're coming from. And so anyway, that's all I'm going to say. So some thoughts. So again, the point of this video is just more confirmation how easy it was in the 4th century to completely rewrite church history. And I've already shown evidence in my videos, Eusebius and Irenaeus as well, Ignatius, Clement of Rome, how there are problems in those writings. And if you watch my videos, we'll go over a lot on Eusebius. I have one where I give you access to table of contents, where you, in the description, you can pull up that interactive PDF. You can click on the link to each video if you want. But yeah, so the part of the problem is there's a lot of people who their desire to want to believe church fathers are reliable exceeds their desire to really check into how reliable they actually are. It's the same way with, for example, King James only. Their desire to want to believe that there's a perfect English translation out there exceeds their desire to really check if that's really the case. And so, so anybody who looks at that objectively can easily see their problem with King James. It's not a hunky-dory translation. I don't think there's a single English translation that's perfect. But yeah, I think that's the problem with church fathers. It takes a lot of work to come to the realization that church fathers' writings are not reliable. It didn't start off with me just, one day I'm going to check out the reliable church fathers. That's not how it went. What I was doing, I was trying to piece together prophecies when they were fulfilled. I was trying to find a fulfillment of prophecy. It had nothing to do with church fathers. I was using reliable sources written from in a first-person perspective who are actually there, like church fathers. And I pieced it all together. And then I checked it against software a little bit, like travel time, so far. It all works out. And so, recognizing that a lot of church history has been destroyed, you have to reassemble it. How did this really take place? And try to find the evidence along the way to confirm it. And so anyway, takes a lot of looking at topography and thinking through the logistics and looking at the Old Testament and where the patterns. It was a lot of work. And look at the history of the time, who's in power, what was he doing with the murdering Christians, and the belief that's dominantly held. It just goes to show people are not connecting the dots with history, what was happening at that time, if this was true. And that's why it's so important to build a timeline, because then you can check that period, okay, and see if the possibility of that being true. Like, for example, Eusebius tried to claim that when Peter said Babylon, he was referring to Rome. But when you piece together when that was written, year 8066, who was in power at the time, what was going on in Rome time, there's no way on God's green planet Earth Peter would be referring to Rome. That would have been suicide for the gathering. It doesn't work. And not only that, but it makes Jesus look like a false prophet. There's no way Ezekiel 37 been fulfilled where the two sticks become one, the stick of Judah and stick of Joseph. It just doesn't work. And it just goes on and on. It just goes to show how far off we are on a tangent due to the power of presuppositions. And it's just way underestimated in Christianity today, generally speaking. It's just way underestimated, the power of presuppositions, how it causes blindness from seeing the author's intent of the scriptures. So anyway, that's all I have to say. So I'm sorry I kind of rambled on. So anyway, hope you're having a great day, and thank you for watching.